Trump-Putin summit ends without concrete Ukraine deal. Deadly floods, landslides lash Pakistan and Kashmir. Hello, good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Otto Othman and you're watching World Today. United States President Donald Trump greeted Russian President Vladimir Putin with a handshake ahead of a high-stakes summit in Alaska that could determine whether a ceasefire can be reached in the deadliest war in Europe since World War II. Putin and Trump exchanged greetings while smiling. Trump and Putin arrived in their presidential jets and walked under gray skies to greet each other on the tarmac before walking a red carpet together to honor guard salute. U.S. F-22 aircraft were placed on either side of the red carpet. The meeting is the two leaders' first face-to-face encounter since 2019 and their first standalone summit since a 2018 meeting in Helsinki. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was not invited to the talks, and his European allies fear Trump might sell out Ukraine by essentially freezing the conflict with Russia and informally acknowledging Russian control over the fifth of Ukraine. Following that, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin began talks in Alaska. Trump and Putin walked into a room for talks accompanied by senior officials and translators. On the Russian side, Foreign Minister and Kremlin aide joined Putin. On the U.S. side, Secretary of State and Special Envoy joined Trump in what an earlier White House press release had described as 3-on-3 talks. Two leaders spoke in narrow format for 2 hours and 45 minutes. The United States President Donald Trump said that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin did not reach an agreement to resolve the war in Ukraine after a nearly 3-hour summit in Alaska, though the country characterized the meeting as very productive.
I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them.
Trump and Putin spoke for a few minutes to reporters and took no questions. This joint news conference is taking place around half an hour earlier than expected. On the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin hoped that agreements reached at his summit with U.S. President Donald Trump could be a launchpad for settling the Ukraine conflict and restoring ties between Russia and the United States. Now, Putin said Russia was sincerely interested in putting an end to the conflict in Ukraine, but called the Russia's legitimate concerns to be taken into account. He also said there was enormous potential for the two countries to build a business and investment partnership in areas such as energy, technology and space exploration, and in the Arctic.
Знаете, понимаете, одним из центральных вопросов стала ситуация вокруг Украины. Мы видим стремление администрации США и лично президента Трампа содействовать разрешению украинского конфликта. Его желание вникнуть в суть и понять его истоки. Я не раз говорил, что для России события на Украине связаны с фундаментальными угрозами нашей национальной безопасности.
However, the Russian president did not specify what the two sides had agreed on. Putin and Trump praised the meeting, with the Russian leader branding it as constructive and held in mutually respectful atmosphere. Putin also offers to host Trump next time in Moscow. Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump departed a military base in Alaska following their summit on the conflict in Ukraine. The two leaders' planes took off within minutes of one another after they held almost 3 hours of talks on the war. Now, it was immediately clear whether the talks had produced meaningful steps toward a ceasefire in the deadliest conflict in Europe in 80 years, a goal that Trump has set at the outset. Trump had said that any final agreement would come in three-way meeting with Putin and the Ukrainian president. But he made no announcement of a Zelensky meeting and quickly returned to Washington after the summit. A body language expert believes President Donald Trump was deflated by the end of the summit with Russian president, despite starting on a positive note. Mexican president and Guatemalan president held an official meeting to strengthen bilateral relations. They discussed key issues including border security and immigration and migration, particularly after a recent incident involving Mexican forces entering Guatemalan territory. Both leaders agreed to create a binational repatriation protocol and a temporary work program to ensure safe labor migration.
Por eso nuestra cooperación, México y Guatemala no solo comparten una frontera, compartimos familias, costumbres, mercados, caminos, ríos y sueños.
México y Guatemala estamos dispuestos a trabajar unidos para proteger a las personas que transitan por nuestros territorios, a nuestros connacionales que se encuentran fuera de ellos y a nuestros connacionales que están retornando. Para el gobierno de Guatemala, esta protección es un objetivo de máxima prioridad.
They also spoke about infrastructure projects with an aim to enhance regional connectivity. Now, this meeting marked the first formal engagement between the two presidents since they both took office.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan penjimatan 5 bintang.
Malaysia unequivocally condemns in the strongest terms the latest statements by Benjamin Netanyahu prohibiting the unlawful and illegal expansionist vision of a greater Israel. In a statement, the foreign minister said these planned actions constitute a blatant violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention and are to entrench the illegal occupation of the occupied Palestinian territory. The E1 project, which covers areas between Jerusalem and Ma'ale Adum, contravenes international law and relevant United Nations resolutions. The Foreign Ministry said its main purpose is to fracture the West Bank, erase Palestinian sovereignty, and destroy the two-state solution. Malaysia is equally outraged by the deliberate killings of journalists and media personnel in the Gaza Strip, which constitute an egregious violation of international law and a flagrant breach of UN Security Council Resolution 2222 of the protection of journalists in conflict zones. Now, Malaysia also reiterates its steadfast commitment to the Palestinian cause and will continue its efforts towards the establishment of an independent and sovereign state of Palestine based on the pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Meanwhile, Palestinian president of Gaza City have come under relentless Israeli bombardment as the military prepares for a major offensive to seize and ethnically cleanse the area, barring emergency workers from reaching people trapped in the residential Zaytun neighborhood. Gaza Civil Defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basal said the Israeli army had been firing at emergency vehicles trying to reach the wounded in Zaytun on Friday as the Israeli quadcopters dropped leaflets threatening a forced displacement. Residents were told to leave sections of the eastern neighborhood where hundreds of homes have recently been destroyed. Israel had also been deploying heavy artillery, drones and fighter jets, with 4 neighborhoods of Gaza City reporting relentless bombardment shaking the ground day and night as the military advanced its plans. As the Israeli military closed in on Gaza City, it also continued attacks on other parts of the enclave, killing 44 people, including 16 aid seekers desperately seeking sustenance for their families. At least 1,760 Palestinians had been killed while seeking aid in Gaza since late May. This marks an increase of several hundred compared to the last reported figure at the start of August. The United Nations stated most of the killings were committed by the Israeli military. 994 killed in the vicinity of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites and 766 along the routes of supply convoys. The update came as Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said at least 38 people were killed by Israeli fire on Friday, including 12 who were waiting for humanitarian aid. In recent days, Gaza City residents told more frequent airstrikes targeting residential areas, while earlier this week, Hamas denounced aggressive Israeli ground incursions in the area. Up next, 18 killed as bus falls into river in Algerian capital. At least 200 people were killed in torrential rains in northwest Pakistan over the past 24 hours, with bad weather also bringing down a rescue helicopter. Cloudbursts, flash floods, lightning strikes, and building collapses amid heavy rain caused fatalities in the hills and mountains of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The National Disaster Management Authority, a government body, put the death toll at 194 late on Friday. Provincial Chief Secretary Shahab Ali Shah said worst hit was the Buner area, where floods and heavy rain caused 100 deaths. A helicopter carrying relief supplies to those hit by flooding in Bajur, close to the Afghan border, crashed due to the bad weather, killing the 5 crew members. In the district of Swat, more than 2,000 people were moved to safer ground after rivers and streams swelled. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif chaired an emergency meeting to review the flood situation caused by the recent rains. Hundreds of others have been killed in recent weeks as Pakistan experienced more rain than usual during the current monsoon season, washing away roads and buildings. Meanwhile, rescuers in India, Kashmir, used shovels and earth movers to search for survivors under boulders and debris on Friday, a day after sudden floods triggered by heavy rains killed at least 60 people and left 200 others missing. Gushing mudslides and floodwaters inundated the village of Chasoti on Thursday, washing away pilgrims who had gathered for lunch before trekking up a hill for a popular religious site in the second such disaster in the Himalayas in a little over a week. Bags, clothes and other belongings caked in mud lay scattered amid broken electric poles and mud on Friday, and rescue workers used ropes and crossed makeshift bridges in an attempt to extricate people from the debris. The Himalayas are prone to floods and landslides, but some scientists say the intensity and frequency of these events are increasing due to climate change. Thursday's incident comes a little over a week after a similar flood and mudslide engulfed an entire village in the Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. In neighboring Nepal, at least 41 people have died, 21 are missing, and 121 injured in floods, heavy rains, landslides, and hailstorms since early monsoon rain started in June this year. "18 people were killed and 9 injured in the Algerian capital when a bus plunged from a bridge into a river. The emergency services said the accident happened in late afternoon in the Mohammedia district of East Algiers, and 2 of the injured were in critical condition. Now, the 2 individuals who were injured have been stabilized prior to their transfer to a local hospital. In the meantime, the deceased have been transported to the mortuary. The Civil Protection Services began their intervention, and search operations for any additional victims are still ongoing. There was no immediate word on the cause of the accident. Now, the crash is one of the deadliest road accidents in Algiers in recent years, drawing concern over transport safety in the city. Heavy clouds of smoke covered roads, towns and landscapes in Spain's northern region of Orense as the country battled 14 major fires driven by high winds and aggravated by heat. Now, across the country, wildfires have already killed 7 people and burned an area the size of London. The Director General of Emergency Services stated that firefighters have been battling to put out blazes across southern Europe in one of the worst summers for wildfires in 20 years. A nearly 2-week heat wave and southerly winds were worsening the situation in Spain. Now, according to the European Union's Forest Fire Information Service, wildfires have burned more than 157,000 hectares in Spain so far this year, almost double the annual average. Spain's National Weather Agency, AEMET, warned of extreme fire risk in north and west of the country, as temperatures are expected to reach as high as 40 Celsius on the north coast. Earlier, Spain received 2 water-bombing airplanes from France to bolster firefighting efforts in Galicia. Serbia's police used tear gas and crowd control vehicles in Belgrade. This action was taken to disperse anti-government protesters who threw firecrackers and flares at police officers in what is seen as a major escalation of the 9-month-long protests. The protesters gathered in front of the army headquarters building that was bombed in 1999 by NATO. A few hours later, they started throwing flares at police officers. Trash containers were overturned and set on fire. The police threw tear gas containers to push protesters away. Protests were held in several other towns, including Novi Sad, Nice, and Vallejo. Tear gas was used in Nice, as well as there were no official figures on how many people were injured. Months of protests across Serbia, which were sparked by the death of 16 people when a roof on a renovated railway station in Novi Sad collapsed. Coming up, defending champs Al Ahly set for Firmino reunion in Asian Champions League. National men's doubles pair Man Wei Chong admitted that he and his partner T Kai Woon are in better physical condition to participate in this year's World Badminton Championships, which will be held in Paris, France from 25th and 31st August. Compared to the inaugural edition he participated in 2023, Wei Chong feels they are now more prepared and hope to do better by aiming to bring home a medal for Malaysia. When asked about his draw with Kai Woon in the tournament, Wei Chong admitted that being placed as the seeded pair gave them a slight advantage when they would not be playing in the first round. However, he said that did not mean they could be complacent, given that there were several great names they had to fight if they wanted to go further. For the record, in the 2023 edition, Wei Chong and Kai Woon ended the competition in the third round after losing the Chinese pair Li Wei Keng and Wang Chang 21-16, 14-21, 21-17. Now, 11-time consecutive Malaysian Super League champions Johor Darul Takzim JDT have been handed a challenging draw for the 2025-26 Asian Football Confederation Championships League Elite ACL Elite, which includes some of the top clubs from East and Southeast Asia. At the league stage draw held in Kuala Lumpur, JDT will host Chinese Super League champions Shanghai Port FC and Shanghai Shenhua FC of China, as well as Japan's Vissel Kobe and Michida Zelvia at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium, Iskandar Putri. For their away fixtures, the Southern Tigers under Cisco Munoz will travel to Thailand to face Thai League holders Buriram United, followed by Australia against Melbourne City FC, before taking on Japan's Sanfrecce Hiroshima and China's Chengdu Rongcheng FC. However, JDT will avoid facing 3 South Korean clubs, namely Gangwon FC, Ulsan and FC Seoul, in this season's campaign. For the record, JDT's campaign last season ended in the round of 16 after losing to Buriram United 1-0 on aggregate. The 2025-26 ACL Elite is scheduled to take place from 15th September to 25th April next year. Meanwhile, defending champions Al Ahly will face a reunion with Roberto Firmino in the league phase of the ACL Elite after Saudi Pro League side were drawn to meet the former Liverpool forward's new side, Al Sadd of Qatar. Firmino was instrumental in Jeddah-based outfit lifting the continental title for the first time in May when he inspired Al Ahly to a 2-0 win over Japan's Kawasaki Frontale in the final before leaving the club in July. The tournament will again adopt the Swiss League format for the opening round after its introduction last season, with the 24 participants divided into 12-team groups for both West and East Asia. The first 8 finishers on each side of the Asian Confederation will progress to the last 16, which will be played in March next year, with the quarterfinals, semifinals and final to be held in Saudi Arabia from 17th to 25th April 2025. Al Ahly will also face Shabab Al Ahly, Sharjah FC and Al Wahda, all from the United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan's Nasaf, Iraqi outfit Al Shorta, as well as Al Gharafa and Al Duhail of Qatar. 4 times Asian champions Al Hilal, also from Saudi Arabia, will take on Al Sadd, Al Shorta, Shabab Al Ahly, Nasaf, Al Duhail, Al Wahda, Sharjah FC and Al Gharafa.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
Up next, extravagant as Belgians cook up giant omelette. The Desfile de Sileteros took place in Colombia's Medellin early this week, marking its 68th edition as part of the Feria de las Flores. The event showcased the silatera tradition, with participants carrying flower arrangements on their backs, reflecting the historical practice of transporting goods from Santa Elena to the Plaza de Senderos. The parade allowed spectators to view the floral creations, which have evolved over the years since their mid-20th century beginnings. According to the city of Medellin, the parade included 540 seleteros and was organized into 7 categories. Each category followed specific guidelines, such as the traditional category, which requires siletas to include at least 15 varieties of native flowers from Santa Elena. Artistic siletas were crafted to provoke thought through themes related to religious, political, social, environmental, and educational topics. Santiago Silva, Secretary of Culture of Medellin, stated that the parade highlights the significance of flower cultivation and brings the community together to celebrate rural traditions. The event, part of the Feria de las Flores, aims to maintain the tradition's relevance within Medellin's cultural identity. Belgians gathered in a town square in the east of the country on Friday to feast on a traditional giant omelette made with thousands of eggs on Assumption Day. Overseen by the World Fraternity of the Knights of the Giant Omelette, cooks in the town of Melbourne broke and whisked eggs while a pan 4 meters wide was brought by a forklift truck. Others fried up pieces of bacon in the pan before the whisked eggs were poured in. The finished omelette was served up to onlookers in bowls with a chunk of bread. According to legend, the idea of cooking up an enormous omelette dated to the 9th century, the time of William I of the Duchy of Aquitaine in what is now southwest France. Setia kicked off the tradition in 1973, with Melbourne and other towns in Argentina, Canada, France, and the United States joining in.
La tradition date de Guillaume d'Aquitaine Ier, qui en l'an 900 qui était très croyant, et à l'an 900 après le carême, il avait très faim et son cuisinier lui fait une omelette avec des lardons à l'intérieur.
A mass was held at Melbourne's cathedral to bless eggs and bread to be used in the festival before parading them through the town. Hong Kong's twin giant panda cubs marked their first birthday on Friday with a specially made iced vegetable juice cake, delighting crowds of panda enthusiasts at the city's Ocean Park. The cubs' elder sister, Jia Jia, and younger brother, De De, eagerly licked the frozen treat and played energetically inside their enclosure. They are the first giant panda cubs born in the city.
Just like you're looking for babies, okay? When you just say, drink milk, it's like, Greg, drink milk, water, Greg. Oh, see, smile. See, just like this. You know, every moment, every single pieces, you would just very, very enjoy. And so Greg and so happy, you know, they grow up day by day.
Their mother, Ying Ying, made history in August 2024 as the world's oldest first-time panda mother at 19, the equivalent of 57 in human years. Her decade-long journey to parenthood with partner Lok Lok included multiple phantom pregnancies and miscarriages before the unexpected birth of the twins, which captured hearts across Hong Kong. According to the park, Jia Jia and De De now each weigh about 30 kilograms and are gradually being introduced to solid foods such as chopped bamboo shoots and carrots.
Tutup tingkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
Well, that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, Trump-Putin summit ends without concrete Ukraine deal. Till then, I'm Otto Othman, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Thanks for watching.